Hi, and welcome to Best in Tesla. So we have heard a lot of so-called journalists saying that Tesla sales has collapsed and it was all because of Elon Musk. But I wonder what they're going to say now, as Tesla is back seeing explosive sales growth again. Oh boy, who could ever have predicted that? Well, a lot of us in the Tesla community did, so this does not come as a surprise, and it is playing out pretty much as predicted. So let's check out all the numbers and let's dive right in. So I have been talking about this through all of 2025, fighting against the narrative that Tesla has suddenly got a huge demand problem because of Elon Musk politics, where I have been saying the whole time this is not a demand problem, but a supply problem, as they are refreshing the Model Y, that stands for 65% of Tesla sales, or about 2/3. This will of course have huge implications on Tesla sales, as Tesla stopped production of the world's best-selling car and had to retool all 4 factories and then ramp back up again. And in China, Tesla did it the fastest, where it only took about 6 weeks from start of retooling to the first deliveries of the refreshed Model Y. So I think it's fair to say that it have taken longer, probably close to 2 months in the other factories. So in Q1, Tesla had their car that stood for 65% of the sales not being produced or ramped up. Of course, they had some inventory of the old version to sell, so sales did not stop completely, but they showed off their refreshed Model Y on the 10th of January and made the first delivery in March. Then they had to export new cars around the world in April, and then in May, and especially in June, they would have had some good amount of new Model Ys ready for customers. As we have also seen in many places around the world, Tesla's first deliveries of the refreshed Model Y happened in June. So some so-called journalist would like to tell us that there is a demand problem in April when Tesla is exporting cars, and says that we can't use the refreshed Model Y as an excuse anymore. Well, when some countries only first get the launch edition of the Model Y in June, I think it's fair to say this so-called journalist doesn't know what the hell they are talking about. So I have been saying this all year, trying to explain how this drop in sales has very little to do with Elon's politics, as there are always some people that don't want to buy a Tesla because of Elon Musk. But in 2025, it was just because of his politics. But like I have been saying all year, this is just noise and does not reflect reality. And Søren Basher even took the time all the way back in April, when everyone jumped on the wagon about Tesla's demand problem because Tesla was exporting cars in the first month of the quarter, as always, to show how the production ramp, like the one with the Model Y, would probably look like with the data we got from Tesla at the earnings call. Because as Søren Basher showed on his chart, in Q4 Tesla produced about 460,000 vehicles in a 90-day quarter. That's an average of just over 5,000 vehicles made per day. But then we entered Q1 and they shut down production of the Model Y for about 3 weeks in order to change over the manufacturing lines to the new refreshed Model Y. But then they had to ramp up production again, and that can't be done just overnight. This means that they no longer are making 5,000 vehicles per day in at least 21 days. Production might have declined to about 1,500 per day, according to Søren Basher, and that is the red line we can see here in Søren's chart. If Tesla, after 3 weeks shutdown, could immediately have ramped up production again, the orange line, they could have reached that 5,000 daily rate again. But the reality is probably more like the red line here from Søren, where production ramps up again over a couple of weeks. It may of course not be this linear as Søren is showing here on his chart. So if we look at what the production capacity for Q1 really was, we see this chart. So the 460,000 units in Søren's chart is if production had continued at the same pace as in Q4, which it obviously didn't do. But the 385,000 units is if production could have immediately ramped up to prior average daily rate of 5,000 units after the 3-week shutdown, which they obviously couldn't. So the ramp CERN has made here in the red line ends up with 362,611 units if production ramps up over a 2-week period. And this compares very well to the actual production number reported of 362,615 units. I don't think it can be more clearly shown than on this chart what has happened. But so-called journalists think it's all because of Elon Musk. Jesus. But another thing is that just because Tesla has ramped up to 5,000 units again does not make the cars magically appear in all Tesla's delivery centers, which someone like Fred Lambert apparently thought they would, as he didn't think we could use the so-called excuse of refreshed Model Y anymore after Q1, because that was when the ramp had happened, right? Yes, but it will take months just to get the cars shipped around the world. Tesla only has 4 factories. And even when they get to their destination, Tesla will still not have their inventory back to normal levels. They will be behind for quite a while before inventory is filled up and they can continue to keep them full. So, as I've been trying to explain through all of 2025, is that this will hurt Tesla sales in all of the first half of 2025, but we should see sales ramping up again by the end of Q2. And what do you know? That is exactly what we're seeing. Tesla's most notable performance came in the UK, where June registrations jumped 224% month over month, and Spain, where registrations more than tripled. This made Tesla the top-selling electric car brand for the month in both countries. And in the UK, Tesla even managed to become the best-selling EV brand and have the 2 best-selling model in the country year to date. In the Netherlands, Tesla became the best-selling car brand in June across all vehicle segments. And Norway reported 5,646 Tesla sales and a 30.7% market share in June. BEV penetration is 96.9% and Tesla has a 31.7% of this segment. This is just crazy. 31.7% of the BEV market, and that is when the BEV market is basically the whole market. Tesla sits on just above 30% of the entire Norwegian car market in June. Very impressive. And in my country of Denmark, the Model Y was once again back at being one of the best-selling car of any kind. Number 2 in June across all vehicle types. So even though many journalists in Denmark are writing, the Danes have forgiven Elon, this has nothing to do with Elon. The few hundred people that didn't want to buy a Tesla because of Elon is a drop in the ocean, as people actually care more about the product they are buying than the politics of the CEO of the company. So it might come as a surprise for the journalist that is not following Tesla very closely and therefore have to come up with excuses to why Tesla sales are back up again. But this is playing out exactly as I predicted. We don't have all the data yet, of course, but just look at this chart where we can see Tesla sales in Europe. Well, it is back having the biggest market share in the BEV market of any automaker in June, even outselling the entire Volkswagen brand in June. So this is not with all the numbers, so this chart could be a bit misleading, but the trend is pretty clear in many countries around Europe. So I think it's hard to argue against this anymore. That Tesla sales were down because of the refreshed Model Y, pretty accurately actually to what could be expected from this ramp like we showed with CERN's charts here. And now we are back ramping up production and inventory. We are not all the way there yet, as inventory is no doubt not completely filled up around the world, and we are still missing a lot of versions of the Model Y, but Q3 should look much closer to normal levels as Q1 and Q2 did. Just as Teslarati wrote in their article, Tesla sees explosive growth in the UK, Spain and the Netherlands in June. But it is not only these 3 countries, as I have just mentioned. We are also seeing Tesla back with high sales numbers in my country of Denmark and completely dominating in Norway and many other countries. So I think Søren Basher was pretty right when he answered back in April, no evidence of brand damage but plenty of brain damage. Yes, but now we are seeing someone like Ford having EV problems, as Ford's EV sales are down 31% in Q2. So let's see what the mainstream media have to say about that. According to a Ford spokesperson, the sales dropped for the Mustang Mach-E and the F-150 Lightning. Well, they stem from a transition to the 2025 model year with temporary limited inventory. Our dealers can't sell what they don't have, Ford said. Well, where have I heard that before? Oh yeah, on this channel, trying to explain why Tesla sales dropped in Q1 and will do it again in Q2 because Tesla didn't have any Model Ys to sell. But the mainstream media didn't want to hear that. It was all just because of Elon's politics. Much better clickbait. Well, let's see if they will blame Jim Farley's politics on this one as well. But I doubt it. But it seems like Tesla sales are rising pretty much as predicted, and we are still missing Tesla's more affordable models that will probably put a little more growth factor on Tesla's sales. So we should still have so much more good news from Tesla to look forward to in the second half of 2025. So let's see if the mainstream media will pick up on the rise of Tesla again, or they only report when sales are down. I don't think we will see many mainstream media coming out admitting they were wrong. But as always, there is a lot of noise surrounding Tesla. But while everyone is making a lot of noise, Tesla is just executing as always. And thank you for watching. And until next time, take care out there and be nice.